Hey everyone, Paul here from the Real Estate Playbook. Just wanted to record a quick clip to say what's up. This is episode number 10, which is a milestone in my book. We wanted to say thank you to everyone who's been listening and watching so far. We've been having a lot of fun with it. Joe and I have been kicking around the idea of a podcast for a long time, so it's been great to see it come to fruition and see a lot of people enjoying it. Not only to the people that listen and watch, but also everyone who's been a guest so far. You guys have been awesome. We hope to keep doing this for quite some time. There are some new things in the works, some exciting things. We got some great guests coming up and some changes coming as far as production goes. So keep an eye/ear out for that. You can actually reach us now on our website at therealestateplaybook.com. That's going to have the most recent video as well as the most recent Spotify link to the newest episodes. There's also a form there. If you want to be a guest on the podcast, you can fill that out and we'd love to have you on. Let's see what else. Make sure that if you are enjoying and listening that you're keeping up with us on social media. It's going to be at the Real Estate Playbook on Instagram and Facebook. And do be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you could as well, give us a listen over on Spotify. You can listen to those episodes on the go versus having to sit down and watch them on YouTube. And I think that's pretty much it. So again, thanks to everyone who's listened, watched, been on the show. We really appreciate it. Make sure you're subscribing, etc. And stay tuned for the rest of the episode. Joe has a great interview with Dustin Oldfather. And I'll see you guys next time.
Welcome to another episode of the Real Estate Playbook. This week's guest is none other than Dustin Oldfather with the Oldfather Group and with Compass Real Estate. How you doing today, Dustin?
Doing good, brother. Thank you so much for having me on. It's an honor to be invited on by somebody with your business acumen and someone who's had so much success in the industry. And can't tell you how much I appreciate you as a person, as a man, and as a business owner. I have so much respect for you and just really grateful to be here.
Yeah, likewise, man. I think, I wouldn't be in this spot if it wasn't for you and all those mastermind sessions we did back in the day with you, Jay Pitts, and many others. So, it's coming full circle. All the growth you've had and success in recent years and all those things that we talked about really coming to fruition and take place.
Well, it's interesting you say that because right now we are finally living into those conversations we had, maybe 5 or 6 years ago. Mm-hmm. When you asked a better question, which is how do you 10x your business, but how do you 10x your income? And, we've looked at that, and with all the commission compression, looking at the ancillaries, we're about to launch title after having mortgage and insurance and marketing, and all that came together, and that new way of thinking was, directly attributable to you. So thank you for that.
Oh yeah, my pleasure. And it's great to, share, like-minded ideas with people kind of think the same, and then not only, think the ideas sound good, but then go ahead and put that into practice and start to make those dreams become a reality. So
it took a lot longer than we thought it was, right?
Hey, but at least we did it, right? Because there's a lot of people who didn't. So
they're still doing it. Yeah.
It's still a work in progress, that's for sure. So Dustin, for the people not too familiar with yourself or your background or your group, why don't you tell us a little about yourself, your journey, and how you pretty much got to where you are today?
Oh, thanks for that, Joseph. We started in 2005. I was at school at the University of Maryland. I'd gotten out of the Navy. I was in the nuclear power program and went back to school, was working on the genetics, on a genetics curriculum, and thought I was going to be in molecular biology at the time. Seemed a little far out, but it looks like that industry has really come around. But I met my wife out here at the beach and saying goodbye to a friend who had passed early in life, who I'd gotten to be close with after we got out of the Navy, coincidentally a Navy friend. But after that, we decided to build our lives out here on the coast. Didn't quite get back to finishing school. It was kind of a big leap after we had committed to spending some time together. And, so we were working in restaurants and bars and decided, we saw other people, 2004, 2005, they were making crazy money. And we're like, man, I think we could do that. I think we could at least be, okay at it. And so we both started individually. We ran our businesses separate initially because we weren't sure how that was going to work for our relationship. And then we realized how, that was, how stupid that was because we were, had redundant expenses. Mm-hmm. We came together and then, we started our careers. I started chopping wood on expired and withdrawn listings. That really helped me to launch my career and to take listings and to grow. And then Maria started to work for a builder as we kind of headed into a good segment of the market. And then, 2008, everything really just turned into tumbleweeds. And that's when we opened the door, or were willing to open the door on working with the digital consumer. And so at the time I was looking at iHome Finder, and then Tiger Leads came out. Shortly thereafter, Boomtown came out. For us, it was Tiger Leads, which is just an amazing platform. We were kind of first to market on PPC for our area. A lot of things we would do differently going back, but that led us to this, to being ahead of the curve for our industry and working with people online. And, which is, we're now seeing is how people want to operate for the most part. We got virtual showings and virtual tours. We've built our team. Right now we have about 40 agents and counting. And, we've built our team on high service and a big infrastructure between marketing, listing coordination. Our client success team takes care of the contract to closing. So really focusing on an end-to-end seamless transaction for the consumer, with as much digital convenience as we possibly can.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And I think that's where the race is headed right now, is who can get there the quickest, right?
Yeah, who can give that service experience on, consistently, because we're in an on-demand economy, right?
Absolutely.
An on-demand experience economy. You press a button and something happens, and people, they click. They want to talk to somebody. They want to schedule a showing, and that's around the clock. And it's a big ask for our industry. It's hard on everybody, because it doesn't, every day of the week is, it's relentless. Every single day there's the expectation that you got to serve, and that's part of the glory of it, and it's also part of what makes it so hard.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I always say to the agents too, it's our job. And, I think the brokerages that come out of this, as we handle this transition and everything's changing so rapidly, are the ones who strive to meet the demands of what I sometimes consider unrealistic expectations of the consumer. It's going to get to the point where people are in front of the house and they want you to open the door. But obviously there's a lot more going to it than just us getting in front of the property and popping a lockbox. You got to get confirmation, confirm with the listing agent if you don't own the property, your brokerage isn't listing it, or if the seller has something going, they need to vacate the house. And I think it's just, that drive and passion of how can we best meet those demands as possible, because I feel like the ones who do will be the ones who come out of this very fruitful and, winning in today's market. So as far as, when you speak on the real estate market and how it is now, and obviously it is changing, what are some things that you've recently done to pivot and move and kind of heading your company or team into the direction it's headed now?
Thank you for that question. I think where we've really focused over the past few years is developing our call center. We call them our client concierges, and really refining that. What we're finding is that, we obviously want consumers to talk to a licensed agent every time we possibly can. When your agents are and they're working with 5 or 6 or more active clients, you can't handle too many more. The demands for being available for direct, light inquiries is hard. And so we found that our concierge team is doing an excellent job of meeting the needs of the consumer, so that we can have that, on-demand experience and cover all of the time that needs to be covered for people that want to have a conversation. So we can get all of those things coordinated. That's been a really big shift for us. I think obviously with the pandemic, everybody's working more remotely. So, I'll remember those first few Zoom meetings, and after the first one, I wanted to take a nap. I was so exhausted. Later on, then there's some phenomena like, oh, it's Zoom fatigue. But learning how to interact with a screen with, 10, 20, 30, 50 people, and then none of them talking, and then where you might get a chuckle or some engagement, it's just nothing but silence.
And you got about 30 of those 50 screens that are black, right? Just blacked out.
Right,
and nobody's there.
You got the cat butt walking across the front. You can see somebody's dog's behind him. They're telling him to shut up. But we leaned into that, and I know you have a sense of humor and have just a great emotional intelligence. But I was like, yeah, let's, introduce us to your cat. Let's meet your puppy. Like, hey, is that your 2-year-old? What's your, let's have fun with it. Let's not have everyone be terrified that that there's gonna be some noise in the background. We just figured it out. And I think that was those shifts were the most important, which is how do we how do we continue to create the relationships for the agents without having to handle all the volume of calls that maybe not quite ready to talk to somebody, and just continuing to to train and to get better.
Yeah, I completely agree. And we've built out something similar. You call it concierge, it's what we call major partners. And it's just being around the clock. They're working 8 to 8, 7 days a week, answering calls, voicemails, that we get overnight, emails, texts, all that good stuff. And that way, when somebody does go on a website or somebody does inquire with our brokerage, they get an immediate response. And once they become what I call them as hand raisers, they're ready to go in the field, start looking at properties, or they're ready to speak to an agent about listing the property. Then we'll kind of transition them over to an agent at that time. But we have those agent partners really handling the nurture of the clientele, making sure that all their demands are met throughout this process. Because I just think, as much as real estate is evolving, and then obviously tech's coming into play at a high level, a lot of people want answers right away, or they're going to move on to other brokerages if you can't get back to them quick enough. So I think it's really important to kind of build that out. And I see a lot of organizations who are really starting to do big things have seemed to transition to that model. Are you starting to see that across the board too?
Yeah, it's interesting. We were just at an event, and the statistic that was shared was that of the realtor community in on a national basis, 2% of those of all the realtors are teams are on teams, do 10% of the transactions and 20% of the volume.
Wow.
Right. So the service model has really borne out to be true, which is, how can you give that better service experience? I can't imagine being an individual agent. I know there's some great individual agents who have sphere of influence, and that's a great niche. It's just it is a 24-hour, 24/7 commitment, as a business owner, to make sure that they're getting taken care of.
Yeah, 100%. And I think a lot of the agents who are starting out, like we have a lot of who will join us because they try to do it on their own. It's just overwhelming for them. One, they don't know how difficult it's going to be to find the business, but then two, trying to learn your craft and then kind of be the jack of all trades and do everything. And just like your organization and a lot of the stuff that you've built out, we fortunately had privy to, and that helped us build out what we have here now, where you have the transaction coordinators, listing coordinators, and you really start to compartmentalize all those different divisions where you start to put specialists in place and to make sure that all those consumer demands are met.
And I just heard a recent estimate that, for somebody who's starting a team, and that's, it's exciting. And hey, it was interesting to be at the most recent event. I saw some teams that started well after us and have really have grown a lot faster than we did in the beginning with all of the knowledge that's out there. But if you're starting a team, when you look at the startup cost, when you look at the lead gen, when you look at staffing, you're looking at about $250,000 at a minimum to get off the ground. So the idea of starting a team, it's, you and I have been, investing in our businesses for a long time. It takes a lot of time to get the right people, to get the organization moving in the right direction, and to create the culture where everything happens the way that it's supposed to. My hat's off to people that are starting teams right now. I think with the way the market is right now, that it's a cleaner play to be a part of a team. And, rather than to try to swim uphill, because, that train has left the station.
Yeah, I agree. And the way that it's going in such an aggressive pace, a lot of the opportunities are only given to established teams. So it's really hard to gain some traction if you're not even going to have the opportunities to gain the resources that you need to be successful. So I definitely see that. And speaking kind of you and your organization, Dustin, I know obviously, knowing you for the years and so many times that we've spoke or had masterminds and kind of shared ideas, I know that you have a ton of strengths. But what would be the one strength, if somebody was to think of yourself or the Oldfather Group, what's the one thing you think that is the biggest differentiator between you and the competition in the marketplace when it comes to selling real estate?
I love that question. And I'm going to answer it with humility. I believe for us, it was a commitment to excellence. And that sounds so business cliche and corny. But when we started, I wanted to do everything the right way. And it's how we've always organized our business around how do we do it better? How do we improve the experience? And, and then when we fall down, how do we avoid having that happen again? And from the very beginning, I committed to, hey, I was going to be a great lister. I didn't go on any, like I sold 4 properties the first year I was in business and spent all the money I had and was broke. But I was really good at the listing presentation after the year, and I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to be great at expireds. And so I picked a niche, I picked a lane, I stayed in, and I got really good at those things. And then over time, to shifting into different skills, into business leadership. I don't, produce anymore. But each time we've had a new endeavor, I'm very clear about the things that we want to prioritize. There's a million things you want to do as a business owner. You can't do them all at the same time. And then, just mastering those skills, I think talent acquisition and really starting to understand how to bring the right people into the right place in an organization is, it takes some experience, but it's something that we're committed to and growing our organization. And so that commitment, being committed to doing it a certain way, and maybe just to unpack it a little bit, other people don't have to do it the same way. There are tons of people who have very different cultural organizations. There what's the number, 16 different types of leadership that have been kind of cataloged. And so if you're a leader and you are a person who wants to have a team, then just do you. Don't try to be other people. That was my path. That was what worked for me. That gave me purpose and meaning to try to keep refining and doing things better and learning. But if you're just, one of those really dynamic people that everybody wants to follow, then go out there and lead. So I don't think there's a wrong way to do it, but that's how we did it.
Yeah, and I think one of the things too, great attribute is very authentic. When I think a lot of people were, just chasing what everybody else was doing, or you need to do this because everyone else is, or the path. But if it wasn't in your wheelhouse or something that you felt strong about, you're like, nah, we're probably going to pass on that. And I think that's something that
that's why we're friends.
Yeah, exactly. Just stop following the herd and just doing what everybody else did. And, and that kind of, I think, goes along with your commitment to excellence and always wanting to be as best you can. So when something didn't align with your value, that, you might have not been interested in it.
Yeah, you have to stay in your lane as far as being self-aware and knowing who you are and what you're good at and what makes you happy. You start going down paths for things that don't match with what you're good at or what you like to do. Some of that stuff's necessary, but you got to have fun. And just like Steve Jobs says, you have to have passion, because otherwise you just never make it. You have to love getting up every day to do it and to explore, that part of the business. Otherwise it's just a drag. You'll never make it through.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we're going to be a little vulnerable here. And I hate to use the word deficiency because it's such a negative connotation, but as far as what is the one gap you see in your business right now that you're looking to fill with, that intensity? Like if you were to say the one thing you're focused on right now because you see a need to take your organization to the next level, what is that, Dustin?
Yeah, and this is the dilemma for everyone in the marketplace right now is it's talent. It's finding great people, and getting them integrated into your culture. And I think for years, while I knew the lesson, I think we really under allocated resources as a company into talent acquisition, into recruiting new agents, into finding great people to join the company. We always had done it organically, and now we got to a size of growth, and I'm sure that you can relate as well, that organizationally there's a shift that happens. It's no longer you and me and 3 people in a closet saying we're a team, and then you got 60 75 people working together. It's the dynamics of the organization change, the structure changes, and so finding great people is really is the number one thing. We've doubled down and made a commitment to our hiring practices. We're about to launch a real estate school, and have 2 dedicated, folks who are in the recruiting roles, just to open the door to say, hey, maybe you'd come over and start your career over here, or maybe things didn't go right where you're at. This is, hey, that's a great company, but we're different, and we all love each other. We all get along. Everybody's got more business than they know what to do with. And if you like what we're all about, then come on over. And so that's a place where I look back and like, man, it's a difficult hire. It's a difficult to find, these high level positions in any company. But I think we got the right people, and we're seeing the organization grow because of it.
Awesome, man. Awesome. And I know, one of the things that I strongly value about you is how quick you can pivot and move off an idea that you thought might work. Like, you're very true to yourself. If you see something not going the right way that you thought might have worked, you're not going to, what I say, use stubborn pride or ego and keep it going. You're quick to say, hey, I made a mistake. Let's shift. It's not working. Let's find out what does, because you're so passionate about success, and you constantly are, or we both are, have failing forward in so many different aspects of our life. And it's learning from those mistakes. And my question would be, if you were to speak to a younger version of yourself starting off, I know there's a ton of things you would have done different, as you alluded to earlier, but what's the one main thing you would have done different?
I'll tell you, the biggest needle mover in my life was when I got exposed to Darren Hardy, and he talked about jam sessions. And this is going to sound really corny, but it's basically just a 60 or 90-minute block of completely undivided attention on your projects. When I first started with those projects in the morning, I could go 30 minutes. I didn't realize how much my attention had really dwindled, between social media and just not sitting down to focus. I mean, I certainly somebody who read, but to really sit down and hammer on a project. And I noticed it just recently. So we went going through the transition with Compass. I'd kind of gotten off my rhythms a little bit and just got back to it. And so first thing in the morning, work on your business. I know it sounds a little like over the top, but that's the first thing I do every day. I wake up, I focus on a project for about an hour. I go get my workout in. And that hour, the golden hour, your mind is not cluttered up with, the random text or the crisis of the moment. And there's, we all have things that come up, what's going on. I got to pick up kids, like schedule. That early morning, there's no stress. And all of that devoted time, to the business has just compounded. And I wish that I had started that sooner, because it's the fastest way to get forward in the growth of the company.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. I completely agree with all of that. And then, it is hard. Like, I find myself, it is a lot more difficult than you would think, but just trying to stay there and be laser focused without wanting to go check something or do something and just kind of get fidgety because you're so used to everything fast moving, that immediate gratification, where trying to kind of reverse engineer that and go back to what it was kind of before all this tech is, I think, a lot more difficult than people might think if they have yet to try it. But I do say, having kids, family, work, a lot of agents, a lot of, key personnel here that works with us, and always things coming up, that early morning really not only allowed me to focus on those projects, but bring clarity to them, because my mind was fresh. I wasn't distracted. And then I could knock out my personal work, I think, in an hour or 2 hours before anybody woke up in my household. I'm knocking out half a day's work. And then I have the attention span and the time to then deal with all the needs that my organization or my family might need. So I think that is critical, and, something I think that is, a huge attribute to both of our successes, and kind of dedicating that time.
Yeah. I mean, if all you do is get that done, and, you've had a good day.
Yeah.
But if that's hanging on you till to try to hammer it out at 4:00, it's like the phone gets heavier as the day goes on. Those projects get heavy by the end of the day.
Especially around 5 or 6.
Especially in real estate.
Yeah, I completely agree. So I know you spoke a little earlier about kind of where your career path was headed before you got into real estate. And I don't know if it would be the same career path you would have chosen if not for real estate. But one thing we always like to ask the audience, if you weren't selling real estate right now, based on where you're at with your life journey, what do you think you'd be doing?
Yeah, it's funny. I was my mom was, when I was younger, would call me an entrepreneur, but back then it wasn't a compliment. Basically said you couldn't figure out what you wanted to do,
or you sucked in school, right?
I was okay in school, but she would call me the man of infinite possibilities. So I wanted to do everything. I wanted to do whatever it was. I wanted to do it, and she was like, "Just pick one thing," and I was like, "No, I can't do that."
Yeah. Well, you're not doing that now. Like, how many businesses you're vested in?
The path I was on was molecular biology. I thought I was going to go into pharmaceutical sales. I had aspirations to be in medicine and just ran out of gas. I ran into actually organic chem too, which I passed by the hair on my chinny chin chin. But I, at that point, was not going to be going to medical school unless I was going in another country. So I pivoted a little bit. You talk about pivoting, and I loved the genetics and molecular bio. And I thought, hey, that seems like a good industry and be a place that could make some money. I probably would have ended up in medical sales.
Nice. Yeah, I could see yourself like always sales and then eventually working yourself in leadership, no matter what it was, just always finding solutions to problems and then leading people with your passion to kind of, stay purposeful to those core values of the organization and to kind of fulfill those problems with solutions that the organization might have, whether it's, pharmaceuticals and getting them in the hands of the patients that need them. So,
Well, I would bet when you think back when you started in real estate, were you? I was terrified to be 1099. The idea of being self-employed, like, we never had much in our family. So the idea that then you would go to having nothing, sometimes was even scarier. I look at that and go, it was kind of a miracle that we made it through, becoming, self-reliant.
Oh, absolutely. And there's so many things that you have to do. One, you don't have the plan B and you just make it work. But there's so many times where doubt crept in and I'm like, what am I doing? But I think back then you got to kind of harness it. But I think there is a good such thing as like positive defiance. Like I was never a good employee. Like I, was always kind of wanting to do my own thing or see what I could create and things of that nature. That's always where my passion lied. So we had a mortgage company, went belly up like 08, 09 era. And then from 9 to 11, before I really got real estate going, I was taking all different jobs just to put food on the table. Wife was a homemaker at that time. And we had 4 young kids, so it didn't really make much sense for her to be in the workforce for where the economy was. But it's just, I think the one thing was just the passion of doing something on my own and seeing what I could build and create. Where, I wanted to provide a living and try to get all the nice things and have a certain lifestyle. But I think the main thing was just trying to create something. And then honestly, just kind of in the back of my mind is not having to go back to work for someone. So I think that's what kind of lit the fire under my butt. I don't know, what it was for you.
Right. And then you think, well, what, and so you ask that question, right? Like, oh, what would you do now? Like, I can't imagine doing any other job.
No, not at all.
Like once you get into real estate, there's nothing quite like it. You're like, yeah, I don't know.
It's like you're in your own little bubble and you forget what's happening outside of it.
Yeah. And for you, Joe, I mean, why don't you just, unpack for everybody listening where you started and where you're at right now and what you've been through.
Yeah, so in 08, we had a mortgage company, graduated college 04, went into mortgages, did really well first couple of years, and then started our own company 06, was doing well 06, 07, got licensed in 06, but wasn't really practicing real estate, just was looking to double dip on a couple transactions. 08 came, hit us with a ton of bricks. I got into mortgages right out of college. I'm like, hey, making an income and providing for a family, this thing ain't as hard as people made it out to be, right? Not knowing it was just the times. And then 08 really came through, really humbled me. And, looking back, I'm glad I went through that because it positioned myself a lot better now, kind of going through all those trials and tribulations and all the life lessons that it taught me. And then just, always staying upbeat and positive, trying to figure out what I was going to do during that time and taking different jobs to provide the income. And then when our youngest went to kindergarten, my wife, who we both had hospitality experience, I always thought she would do great in real estate. We both spoke to her getting licensed. At that time, I'm running an all-state agency, just pretty much paying the bills. And she started to get some momentum. A buddy of mine called me, and this is 2011, Dustin. He calls me telling me about these things that his brokerage is starting to excel at, something called Zillow leads. And if people know the price we were paying then and the ROI, it was insane. I mean, we were getting probably 20x ROI back then because the cost was so affordable. And we started to do well. So I was working my job. I'd start building systems and everything at night. She was out producing in the field, but really it was for Rose's kind of sales and bringing in that revenue that allowed me to then jump out of the job that I had, kind of start working on it full time with her. We were a husband and wife team from, if I jumped in 12, probably till about 15 when we brought on our first agent, and the rest is history. So
yeah,
we are now.
What is the history? Because I don't think everybody knows. So you started 2015. You started your team, and what does it look like now?
So right now, I think we just onboarded agent number 72. So we have 72 agents. We have a hybrid brokerage, both of a leads division and independent agent. So I feel we have a model for any agent out there, depending on what they're looking to accomplish in their business, and it provides a great platform for agents who are either A, new to the business, or B, want a better compensation package, but are a little bit more self-sufficient and have their own book. And, building everything out, the resources. One of the things I always say, on different podcasts or throughout the organization, I go, one of the main things I can say when you are interviewing or trying to find the right fit for a brokerage or team where you want to go work is one of the things I always found very important is to learn from a practitioner over a theorist. Like, you can read books and you can see step 1, step 2, step 3, but there's 10 steps in between 1 and 2. And to really kind of be led by somebody who has been in the trenches, who knows what you're going through, can really help because they have the intuition, just because they have the experience. So I think a lot of brokerages are led, or teams even, where agents haven't had that much production, sometimes not at all. They came from different organizations, what might be, and don't really know the struggle of the agent. So I think that's one thing that helped me and Rose kind of build what we have now, is just being agent centric and building it around them, just based on everything we knew that we needed at the time, starting off as a husband and wife team.
Love it. It's amazing, man. Congratulations.
I appreciate it, man.
And it's also a great testimony to what can be done, because think about how different things were from where you guys started to where they are now. I mean, it's really, really extraordinary what you guys have been able to achieve.
Yeah. I was asked a question. Somebody was interviewing me. I forget who it was, but it asked was, how did you get where you are now? Like how did you and Rose build what you have? How did you kind of get to this plateau? Was this always the vision and things like that? I'm like, no, when we started, I was just doing simple math. I'm like, if we can get a $10 million producing husband and wife team at 3%, that's a good living. I didn't know the costs and everything that was going to come into it. Mm-hmm. And then we started to hit it, and then just other things evolved. It wasn't like this was always, in the works. A lot of it happened just because, like kind of what you were alluding to earlier, is finding the right people and really building the right culture, because obviously we wouldn't be able to accomplish anything without the people that we have working with us. And we look at everybody as a partner with us and not somebody who works under us.
Love that.
Just kind of having that mindset and, going and evolving. And we got some pretty lucrative contracts, and everybody's like, oh, it must be easier, it must be nice. But what they don't see, right, and I'm sure you went through the same things, how many contracts did you not get? How many contracts did you not get?
One of the lousiest statements. Oh, it must be nice. Yeah. How nice it is. Yeah.
Exactly. But all the ones that you lost and all the times that you failed to kind of build you up for those opportunities to allow you to enjoy the success that you have built. And then, just be passionate. One thing is we're very passionate about the success of all the agents and all our key personnel. We want them to be able to accomplish all their goals as we were able to. And, we strive to allow them to do that, as I know you and Maria do too with all of your ventures.
Yeah. Well, and how are you doing that now? How are you helping develop agents? Because I know that's something that you have a strength for, and to grow, help 72 people to be out there selling properties. It's not happening by accident, and that's exceptional. So probably be good to just, how do you guys do it? How do you get somebody, from zero to writing contracts? And
it sounds so cliche. I mean, Rose built out some great systems and process. She's definitely more of going deeper dive if you're building out protocols or any guidelines or anything like that. Like, she's really good at kind of diving deep and making sure that no steps are missed, and was always kind of evolving on that. And I think it's just, starting off, like 4 of our team members are what we call group leaders now, which are pretty much mentors. So 5 of our original team members, 4 are still with the brokerage, 2 are independent, 2 are on what we call a leads division, and 2 on leads divisions are now group leaders. So I think it's developing the right people who kind of believe in the values and believe in the culture of the organization, and then slowly kind of work with you hand in hand when you're a smaller, intimate group. And now you're able to go a lot wider. So we wouldn't be able to do anything. I wouldn't be able to do anything without, all the people working with us. Rose wouldn't be able to do anything without all the people we have working with us. And I think it's just kind of getting that buy-in, right? If I was to say the one thing, I think it kind of touched on what you were saying, is getting that buy-in, getting where everybody's aligned. They believe in the mission at hand. They believe in the service, delivering excellence to the marketplace. And then just they're passionate about delivering that. And then, you just have people kind of helping you along the way, where it's not just coming from you. And it's just, I think the personnel development, right, is not only leading everybody within the organization with my wife, but also creating leaders with the organization where, we're hoping one day here soon it flourishes without us because we have such great leaders running it.
Yeah, and it's amazing to hear you say that, because you have to, while you're an extraordinary leader, you also don't have so much ego that you have to always be in front. And I think that's important for people to know, that as
Yeah.
a leader, you're leading. It always is, you're out in front, maybe in the battles, but in general, we work for everybody in the companies, right?
Absolutely.
People think about it like, oh, the CEO or whatever. Look, you got 72 bosses, right? You got a bunch of people that really, you work for them. And if we don't support them and help them grow, then there won't be any organization. That's what it's all about. And so it's a service job, but my hat's off to you for what you guys have been able to accomplish.
Yeah, and same to you too. So I know we're kind of on that similar journey, and it was nice to kind of be aligned with somebody who shares the same principles, that we could always bounce off ideas. Because I always, it's very important, I think, to have accountability partners and create those masterminds and those alliances with people kind of on a similar path as you. Because it's.
I mean, to this day, that is one of the most valuable things that I ever did, was to spend time with you and Jay and Doug. I mean, we were a real tight mastermind. Masterminds can get a little out of control when you get too many people, but when you get the right people in the room. And it's funny, I was just talking to another mega producing team leader this week, and he said, we don't really need these events. He's like, we just need to get in the same room and talk.
Yeah.
He's like, and if we did that, like, we would accomplish so much more than maybe whatever this workshop was about. And but it's hard to find great people. It's hard to find great people that want to connect and click and can commit the time, because it is a commitment. But I think those are transformational conversations when you get the right people, and really grateful that we found each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the best things, I mean, it's great to go to these events, and they got great speakers out, and you're getting to hear everybody's testimonial, and it's real inspirational and all that jazz. But the thing that I found the most value in is, like, when I'd visit offices, and then I'd get to spend a day at your office. I get the visual of how everything's working, kind of talk to your personnel, kind of see what you've been describing, but get the visual for it. And me and you went to visit Jay when we did that podcast over there in Louisville, and kind of going to his office and spending some time with you. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't value, is kind of those office visits, and really, kind of going to not only see how somebody else is running their business and see, so that way you can kind of improve on yours, but also then just where you have that dedicated alone time where, Louisville, me, you, and Jay got to spend the day together, and we're just bouncing ideas nonstop. I think that was very valuable, rather than if you're at like a seminar or whatever it might be, it's go, 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 go. You don't really have time to have those intimate conversations.
Yeah, I don't do them the same way anymore. I used to, just sit there for 8 hours a day. Now I split it up and I break it out a little bit. Used to leave with 3 pages of action items, and now I'm like, I leave with 3 or 5. Mm-hmm. And as one of my mentors said, he's like, if you don't have a day after the event, don't even go, because otherwise you're going to go right back in the whirlwind. You're not going to be able to pull anything out of it. Yeah. So I think those masterminds are important, and certainly events do change lives, because it's a chance to get in the hive mind and to see other people and to see what's possible. But you highlighted something that's really important. If you're thinking, I mean, if you are a team, or you want to learn more about somebody's business, go spend a day with somebody. Mm-hmm. Pat Hyban, years ago, Pat Hyban was very early, one of the first high producing teams in the industry. Moved his income into cash flow properties, and then just became a personality. And he shared, in his rise, that he had this theory about the barrel of monkeys, right? The barrel of red monkeys. And he said, every time he reached up, he always found someone, a monkey, so to speak, who would reach back down. He said, it was interesting. He said, every time he got to the next level, he would just ask somebody for help. And he said it was after he got to the top, he got to the barrel. He said it was very rare that anyone ever asked him to help. And he said, I would have helped anybody who had asked me. And so, if when you're in the same market, there's a little different conversation. Mm-hmm. But most of us, especially people who've been through a lot, want to see other people grow. And it's okay to ask somebody, hey, can I come by and just, and tour your office with you, or spend your day? I had someone from the 5 a.m. club came out. She shadowed me for the day. And, and we had some great experiences. I'm sure she took some different things and was like, this is not what I expected. This is pretty, I would say amazing, but she was, it was an experience that she took, that she saw a different way of doing it, and I'm sure if we went out to California and followed Tim Smith around, we'd go, oh yeah, I got something here. And people are just always willing to help. So I think there's a couple of key points there, which is, masterminds are wonderful if you do them, commit to them. And it's important to ask for help. And then at the same time, it's really, really powerful to go see how an operation runs. I think about going to Zillow. I think about going to Zappos. And then you're just like, wow, okay, you know what? Zappos is like, there's no rules. Like, people make their own schedules. They wear, they wear crazy clothes. They cut your tie off when you walk in the door if you're overdressed. You know what I mean? Like, that is a culture. You're like, oh, okay, you can do it differently. So I think the exposure to that is really important to growth as a business leader, to be reminded of what's possible, and then to affirm what's important to you and how you're going to do it. Because I'm not a casual guy. I'm not flip-flops and shorts at the office. Like, that's just not how we operate. There are places that operate like that, right? That are very, very cool, relaxed. And I applaud that. That's not who I am. But sometimes you say, oh man, maybe we need to loosen up a little bit. Or maybe you're like, you know what? That's cool for them, but this is how we do it. I think when you see other things, it gives you the clarity on how you want to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And just getting that transparency, and people can tell you things, but I think it's just getting that visibility to really see it and then be like, okay, now it makes sense. I thought I understood it, but now I truly understand it. And to kind of see all the wheels in motion. Just I remember walking by your office and seeing how everything was set up. I had people positioned. I mean, there was great value in that, because it then gave me an idea of, okay, I've been struggling with some things here. That's how you worked out. Seems to be working for you. So why don't I just take that blueprint home with me and implement that? So it speeds up.
You learned something from me. That's awesome. I thought I was getting all the gold.
So in closing, Dustin, I know so you have real estate, mortgage, insurance, soon to be title. I don't want to butcher all the areas you're working in, but why don't you let us know, for the audience, anybody who's looking for mortgage, title, real estate, or insurance needs, the markets that you cover, and then the contact information where they can reach you.
Oh, you're awesome, man. Easy to follow, at Dustin Oldfather on Instagram. Seems to be clean for everybody. You can also see us at theoldfathergroup.com. We service the Delaware and Maryland beaches, as well as the state of Delaware, and then the eastern shore of Maryland, and then Pennsylvania. And so as a mortgage company, we're also licensed in Delaware, Maryland, and Pennsylvania for insurance as well. The title company we're probably about a month out there. And then we will add a financial services suite. So what we found, and what we continue to see from our clients, and the feedback that they give us and the reviews that they give us, is that having the suite of services all together, mortgage, title, insurance, having all of these things together is a convenience. We talked about the consumer experience, right? And how do you give them a better experience? You make everything real sticky and tight and efficient and work together. And so that's been our model, and it's worked for us. That's how we feel like we bring the most value to our clients. So grateful for the invitation, Joe, and really appreciate the time.
Yeah, no, appreciate having you. It was a great episode. And then I think in closing, like I know me and you discussed a long time ago, you always see like all these doctors, right, coming together, and then they're coming together in what I consider a medical center. But one thing we never saw is a business center, right? Like, hey, you need an accountant. Eventually, I'm sure maybe you don't get your own accounting firm, but you might have one in there with the financial services, so everybody can just bounce around and get what they need. Kind of like the doctors, if you need to go see a different specialist, you can just go right down the hallway, set up that appointment, rather than kind of going outside the facility. And people definitely do value that convenience. And then, if they trust you and everybody's sharing that same vision, that core alliance, where it makes it a lot easier for them. So, well, I appreciate it, Dustin. Thank you for your time, and it was great having you on this week's episode.